What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today I want to talk about the biggest threat to Social Security, and we're talking about the trust fund going insolvent. I'm going to show you guys some information here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how this can be prolonged even if Congress doesn't act. Now, of course, we want Congress to act, but just looking at Congress right now, obviously there's some dysfunction. So we might not see any action right away. And so what other things can be done? And we're talking more long-term, but what other things can be done to help the trust fund so we won't see a 23% cut in Social Security in 10 years? So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Threads, you can at the TEC Show Live. Okay, so later today, we will know who the nominee, well, we should know who the nominee is for the Republican Party when it comes to the Speaker of the House. So we'll know that information. And then from there, then we'll see if they can vote on a speaker. Right now, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to see a speaker this week. We might have to wait 2 or 3 weeks down the road before we see that. And we also need to address the fact that we could see a government shutdown on November 17th, because that is when the continuing resolution runs out. And so hopefully they can do another continuing resolution, or even better, they can vote on these appropriations bills. I think there's about 8 left that they need to vote on and approve, and then we can move forward. So let's go ahead. I want to show you guys what I have for you guys today when it comes to Social Security and the trust fund. Now, this is really important because when the trust fund runs out of money, and I say when because at some point it will run out of money, because that's just the way it's looking right now, and I'll show you why. Now, think of this as your savings account. So what this is indicating here, this is the trust fund, okay? But think of this as your savings account. Let's say you're working, you have a savings account, and you have a checking account. And you're working, you're making good money, and so you have money left over. And with that money that you have left over, you start putting that money away. And you're able to put that money away, and you see your savings account just continue to increase. And then you get to a point about right here where you're making money still, but your bills are coming in, and your bills are now starting to get to a point where you're paying more in your bills than you're bringing in your salary. And so now you have to start drawing from your savings account. And so that's what the trust fund is. The trust fund is a savings account. And so now what's going on is we're starting to draw from the trust fund. And you see here, it's kind of a flat line. And so basically, let me change the color here just so you guys can see this a little bit better. But when it comes to the trust fund, you see right here, we were looking at a time where it was kind of flat lines. And so we might have been taking a little from the trust fund, but we weren't taking a lot. But now you see what's happening here. Okay, within the last few years, we're starting to take more and more from the trust fund. And what that means is the trust fund is starting to deplete. Just like if you had a savings account and you had to start pulling more and more money from that savings account, eventually that savings account will be depleted. And so let's look at this here. This is a pretty good illustration of where we are now and what's going on. So when we're looking at the red here, okay, this red line, this indicates how much money, outgoing money, how much money needs to be spent. The green line here is the total income coming in. So we're looking at the payroll tax, right? And we're also looking at the money that they're taking from the trust fund. So when we're looking at the total money going out, so this is the money that's being paid out for Social Security beneficiaries. Okay, that's where that line plays a role. Now, obviously, we have more and more people that are collecting Social Security, and our workforce right now is not adequate to supply enough money to pay Social Security beneficiaries, and that's why we're drawing from the trust fund. And so looking at this illustration, you see we had a really good period. All throughout this period here was really, really good, and with the payroll tax, there was more money in the payroll tax, so there was more money coming in than was being spent for Social Security beneficiaries. And so they had money left over. And that's the money they were putting in the trust fund. Okay, so that's why you see this green line above the red line. That's good. That's what we want to see. And we saw this up until about, 2015, 2016. And then we see something change. We see the green line cross the red line. The red line's now on top of the green line. You see it's kind of right here, was kind of back and forth. And then you see the green line take this little hit here, and you just see the red line now. The red line is just continuing to rise. And so what that's telling us is that the trust fund is being depleted. Okay, so this is just a different example of showing you that the trust fund is being depleted. And so right now we don't have enough people in the workforce paying into the payroll tax to support the people who are retired, the people who are receiving Social Security benefits. And this is going to continue. This is not something that is going to go away, because we have people living longer. That's one thing. And we have a shrinking workforce because of things like AI. And we've talked about this before, but we're now shifting jobs. We're now, we're seeing automation, a lot of automation. You go to grocery stores, you go to department stores. What do you see? Self-checkout. And if you have self-checkout, that means you don't need to hire as many people to work. Now, I know the argument can be, well, these people, they're going to be different jobs, technology jobs that they're going to be doing. But right now, what we're seeing a shrinking workforce, and it's not improving. And with AI and with the new technology, we're going to see this continue to be an issue, because if you have less people in the workforce, if you have machines doing jobs that people used to do, companies don't have to pay into the payroll tax anymore if they're using machines instead of people. Companies only have to pay into the payroll tax if you have people actually working there. So you have people paying 6.2%, you have companies paying additional 6.2%, and that's where you're getting the money that's going to the Social Security Administration. But if you don't have that anymore and you have a machine doing these jobs, then you no longer have to pay into the payroll tax. And so that there is hurting the trust fund. That's why we're seeing this change. Okay, now that's not the only reason, but in the future, we're seeing this happen. Now, what can we do to change this, or at least prolong this? Okay, because eventually the trust fund will run out of money regardless. Right now, we're looking at 10 years. Can we push it off to maybe 15 years? One way that we can do that is by having a good economy, having a strong workforce. And like I said, with AI, it's going to be challenging, because there are a lot of companies now, what they're going to do is they're going to start just phasing people out. They might not lay them off right away, but they're going to phase them out. And so when those people retire, they're just not going to replace them. They're going to replace them with AI. They're going to replace them with artificial intelligence. So they're going to have computers doing the job that these people used to do. Just think of, I mean, the easiest example is, let's say you have a person who's answering emails and responding to emails. You can now have artificial intelligence do that for you automatically. And so you don't necessarily need someone doing that job anymore. You might need someone to oversee the whole operation, but you don't need someone, you don't need, let's say, 10 employees to check and respond to emails. If you have AI, it can do it automatically. And that could be an example of a company getting rid of 10 jobs. So these people, once they retire, just don't fill their jobs and have AI do the work. And companies are always looking to streamline their workforce, because if they can streamline their workforce and still be efficient and still be effective, then they can bring more money in for the company, because you're not paying it out to the employees. And so looking at this, yes, if we have a good economy, that good economy will help when it comes to Social Security. That strong workforce, if we have more people in the workforce, that's going to help when it comes to Social Security. And so that's why I talk a lot about the economy on this channel. That's why I talk a lot about AI and how that is going to impact people receiving Social Security, because it will. And it could put us in a situation where right now we're looking at 10 years the trust fund could run out of money. But if they start to automate and they start to make changes and our workforce really starts to shrink, we could be looking at 7 years the trust fund will run out of money, or 5 years the trust fund will run out of money. And so that's why it's very important for us to put pressure on lawmakers, let them know, hey, something needs to be done. We need to see some type of Social Security reform. And when it comes down to it, they're going to have to raise taxes. That's the only real option. When you're looking at some of these other options, we're talking about raising the full retirement age and all this other stuff, it's not enough. You need to raise taxes. When we're looking at a shrinking workforce and the payroll tax is not enough, so we know that money, we don't have enough money going in Social Security Administration, the only option is to raise the payroll tax. That's the only real option, the only viable option. Everything else is just talk. And so we really need to get these politicians to understand, hey, this is the only way out of this. If we don't do this, then in 10 years, we're going to see that 23% decrease in benefits. So I want to know what you guys think about all this. So let me know down below. If you guys have any other questions, let me know down below. I'll have another video tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.